we continue in the program. Thanks. Give a Harmot a last applause. Yes, the next speaker is well known to all of those who are here. He actually has a bit shorter career than most of the other speakers in myeloma, but still an impressive career. And I have to just say that to those who don't know, because Fredrik started with myeloma not that long ago, and recently he passed 800 included patients in clinical trials. And for a small country like Norway, that's impressive. And I also have to say that Fredrik has done an extremely important job to include all the other sites and all the hospitals around him. So even though it's 800 patients included, few of them is from his own hospital. So patients are referred to him, and that's very good because that's access for clinical trials for all. Fredrik, you're going to talk to us about clinical myeloma studies in Norway and where we are and where we're going, maybe.
Thank you. So, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for, well, you always invite me. That's what it's like to be in a small country. But I just want to say something first about, I'm going to talk mostly about industry trials, but also something else. That the history of the Nordic group, and especially Norway, was that, or the Nordic group does academic trials. But the history of Norway has been mostly to participate in the academic trials. And we've been doing some of the trials, you can see some of them here. MPT versus MP, one of the more important ones, where we actually was together with the same trials in other countries, led to an approval of MPT. We had some studies with bisphosphonates, some relapse studies, Taldex versus Veldex, one post-transplant, Veldex consolidation versus control. Quality of life trials, very good real-world evidence data. However, we have not been part of any pivotal novel drug trials that leads to approval of new drugs. So I'm just going to illustrate this by the waves of myeloma treatment, and very nicely illustrated with, you see waves coming up. So, and the reason I put thumbs down here is that we were not part of these trials. And actually, for those who know Denmark and Sweden, they were part of many of these trials, but Norway was not. Next wave was a big wave, all the Revlimid combinations, and also DARA monotherapy, DARA Veldex. We were not part of either of those trials either. Next trial, wave, DARA VMP, DARA PD, LEN maintenance, not part of those either. And then you get to 2018, and we start to see some small green thumbs up here. Also that year, most of the new approved trials, we were not part of those. 2019, a little bit of the same, more combinations approved. We had still one trial we were part of. And if you look at the next wave, all the new regimens, phase 1, phase 2 trials that led to approval of all these new drugs the later years, not part of any of those. But I think this will change, because these are the pivotal trials coming up. Not all of them, but at least many of them. These, we don't know that all of them will lead to approval, but some of them have already, and many of them will. And these are, you know, I can use here. The Perseus trial. That will be probably, hopefully, a late breaking at ASH. CARTITUDE 5, closing in to full enrollment. CARTITUDE 6 starting up, and getting back to this. These are first-line trials with CAR T cells. You have first-line trials with teclistamab, first-line trials with elranatamab, KarMMa-9, also coming back to that. First-line trial with ide-cel. KarMMa-3, already published, we were part of that. And relapse trials, magnetism 5, elranatamab, successor 2 with mezigdomide, Illuminate, anuctamab. These are coming and will probably lead to reimbursement, most of them, or approval. And now we're part of all of this. So it's a sort of different situation, I would say. If you look at some numbers, as Tobias mentioned, we had now enrolled 804 patients in 54 clinical trials since we started this center. Average of 15 patients per trial. Increasingly numbers also. So the last year, if you look at up to September, we enrolled 166 patients. And you see that here, this is 2023. So you see during the year, we are way above where we have ever been before. So this is just an increasing thing. And if you disregard, here you see that there are phase 1 trials increasing. Some phase 4, they come and go. But if you look only at interventional trials, you also see there's an increase from year to year. And we are usually, what was a bit surprising in the beginning was that we are able to be the largest center in very many of the trials we participate in, actually 28 of these trials. So, and in Norway, this is the cancer disease that has most patients in clinical trials. It is mostly industry trials, 2/3 industry trials, and 1/3 academic. But if you look at the patient fraction, most of the patients are still in academic trials. This is because those trials really, they usually have a longer enrollment and it takes, and we get more time to put patients into trials. We have grown from me and Nina on the frontier and Ulla in the middle there, starting this in 2014 to this picture taken, and this is not everyone, but most of them, not as many as Hartmut, of course, but Germany is very big, you know. So this is a picture from just a couple of weeks ago. I will struggle to, should I choose this formal picture or the celebrating picture, but it usually ends up being this. So this is a group more or less now. This is not something you're going into detail with, but we are 35 people working at least 50% at Oslo Myeloma Center. These are the nurses with their trials. We have a particular team for Remnant, which is a really large trial. We'll get back to that. And there are a number of doctors who are in charge of different studies. And a number of people doing things that are not connected to each study, and many others. It's a really big group now. So what kind of trials are we doing? Well, the easy answer is that we try to do sort of all kinds of trials. Smoldering, first line for the young and for the elderly, randomized relapse trials, and also phase 1-2 trials, which have become a quite large group of trials for us, and also our own trials. And there are some phase 4 trials and non-interventional trials, but I'm not going to focus so much on that now. So I'm just going to show you some glimpse. That there are examples, and not showing everything, but these are the smoldering trials. And you see in all pictures, the green are where we were the largest center globally. So it turns out that we have lots of smoldering patients in Norway, or at least that we're able to find them. So in Aquila and Ithaca, from Janssen and Sanofi, we are the biggest center in both trials. In the Håvon trial, we're also the biggest center. All these are concluded, waiting for results. This is concluding this week. So as of next week, we don't have any smoldering trials, but very soon we will have a phase 2 randomized trial for smoldering, high-risk smoldering myeloma. Going to first-line trial, we have participated in many Schjesvold versus placebo, 16 patients. We had an academic Nordic trial with IRD and IXA versus IXA-LEN maintenance. I'm simplifying a little bit here for those who know the trials. And the Perseus, the ISCA, is also coming as a plenary at ASH this year. Cobra still going on, KRD versus VRD. I'm going to show you some examples of things that's happening currently. So this is maybe, at least for patients, the most interesting trial going on now. And it's very simple, DARA VRD and cilta-cel versus transplant. So this will give the possibility, I'm not sure why it's not, there's missing a box here because they also get Revlimid. But this is cilta-cel challenging transplant, and patients will, first they will get DARA VRD, which we cannot reimburse in Norway. Secondly, half of them will get cilta-cel also in first line. I think we will cure a lot of patients with this treatment. We are excitingly opening this 6th of November or 7th of November, so it's just a couple of weeks away. And we are opening first in the world, together with Spain, I think, which is also fun. So second, this is carbon 9. This is ide cells. It's also CAR T in first line, but this is different because this is choosing patients not getting a good response from first line, so either PR or VGPR, and randomized into either ide cell plus Len maintenance or just Len maintenance. This study actually has opened, and we screened our first patient this morning. That was the second one screened in the study globally for this trial. The first was in Spain, and the second was ours. Actually, there's some marginal problems with the inclusion criteria for this patient, so I'm emailing with them now, hoping to solve that. But at least we are sort of going. And the second one is just an example where there are many others where we. And I think this slide is even a bit old because it's more complicated than this. But also after transplant, Len maintenance versus Elranatamab. This is in patients. They don't need to have a PR or VGPR like the others, but they need to have a clone from diagnosis, and we have that in almost all patients in Norway. So this is good for us to participate in. The complex thing here for us with the remnant trial, I'm not going into that now, is that if they start consolidation, they cannot be part of this trial. Here, if they start maintenance, they cannot be part of this trial. So it's important for all doctors around to keep an eye on this. So if you look at first line transplant non-eligible trial, now you have to pay attention, Sonja, because this is your trial. The top one there, we were the largest center. I'm sorry about that. Or, well, you're welcome. But the first trial we were biggest in was a big disappointment. We were the biggest center in both the keynote trials, pembrolizumab plus Len-D and Pomdex in relapse. And they were stopped because of the survival benefit going the wrong way, trending the wrong way, and there was no efficacy at all. We have a Schjesvold trial in first line, so an extra and alternating Velcade and Revlimid. And some other current examples, CARTITUDE-5. It's a bit similar to CARTITUDE-6, but the slide is not as good. Sorry about that, but it's VRD with or without cilta-cel. So one arm gets cilta-cel and then stops, the other continues VRD. This is for elderly patients mostly, even though 30% of patients were allowed to be transplantable, but not getting transplant. So enrollment is completed within a few weeks now. We have 12 patients struggling to get a little bit higher. We have one screening ongoing and one planned. We have the Majestic 7. This is not open yet. This is the new sort of first line bispecific trial, where teclistamab is given with daratumumab and Len versus Dara-RD. Pfizer is doing the exact same study with Elranatamab. So these studies will, I guess, lead to approval in many years still. The problem here is, of course, we are a bit worried about this quite heavily combination in first line, but we'll have to see. So going to relapse, this is just a selection of some of the relapse trials we participated in. The green ones are where we were the largest center. The green thumbs are the ones who are approved as regimens. The stops are where something stopped them, pembrolizumab I mentioned, and also Lighthouse because of this melflufen history, which many of you probably know. And also mentioned the KarMMa-3, our first CAR T trial, which also led to approval. And unfortunately, we had 9 patients, so that with 10 we would be on the New England paper, and with 9 we were not, but that's how it is. Excalibur also ongoing now, Iber-Dara-Dex versus Dara-VD. And some current examples here also. Magnetism-5, challenging Dara-PD in the second line and beyond against Elranatamab with or without daratumumab. So as of today, we have 11 patients enrolled in this trial, and it's a very efficacious trial or treatment. One more, mezigdomide was mentioned. We're part of this. This is still quite early. It's KD with and without mezigdomide. We are, as of now, the largest center in this trial with 7 patients, and we will probably stay the largest, I guess. And when it comes to phase 1, we are always the largest center when we participate. For some reason. Some of them have been stopped, or when you go to phase 1 trials, many studies are stopped at some reason, because most phase 1 trials don't succeed. The first one was stopped for futility. It was cobimetinib in some combinations. It was my first and last oral at ASH, and it was the first and last time ASH was completely virtual. So I did the oral at home. Not as fun as you might imagine. Some others, bispecific trial, which is actually really efficacious. It's just that the company gave up because there's too many BCMA bispecifics out there. It was a bispecific for NK cells, which was also stopped for futility. This is not so uncommon. It was Tobias's first trial, hydroxychloroquine plus KD, and there are some ongoing trials. In this pegylated IL-2 antibody, we are the largest center for now with one patient. So, and that patient started last week. So, and actually the next patient we have will be screened on in the next week. And then there's a current example here also with mesigdomide in oral combinations. 3 combinations. One is trametinib, like cobimetinib I mentioned, MEK inhibitor, and there's some BET inhibitors and EZH2 inhibitors. I'm not going into why these are supposed to work, but they are supposed to maybe work in this combination. We are just starting this, so one patient enrolled. Here we are a little bit late, so the studies, there are many other patients in the study from other trials. Also had a screening today in this study. So this was my morning session, this 3 screenings this morning. And just our own trials also. This is Jakob and Frida, they are both here. Jakob was here. And Hanne. And as you see, Jakob has put out a nice picture on our webpage, so the others haven't. So I have to Google them. So what we usually do when we make our own trials is that we try to connect a PhD student to these trials. So they are running the trials. I will get back to some other persons also here. So just briefly, Jakob's trial, he had this first published trial in leukemia. This is 2023. He's not that old. So this was COMPET, KRD consolidation in PET-positive patients after transplant. We enrolled 34 patients, 52 in total, but 34 in Oslo. I'm not going into the results of these trials. We published a new PET marker last year. And the current example, which is an upcoming trial, which is not his, but he's taking responsibility for the Norwegian part of it. This is a Nordic trial. Quite exciting trial also. There's a 6-cycle DARA-VRD induction. Then there's 6 cycles of talquetamab, the bispecific versus GPRC5D, and 6 cycles of teclistamab. And then there's the MRD primary endpoint, and patients that are still MRD positive, if any, will get transplant, and the rest will get LEN maintenance. So exciting trial starting next year, academic or collaborative trial with Janssen. So Frida's trials, she has one REST, which is isatuximab Velcade and Revlimid in newly diagnosed transplant ineligible patients. There is a slight dexamethasone the first 2 cycles, but the point here is to not give dexa. Enrolled 50 patients, half of them in Oslo, and there's a poster at ASH for those who want to see there. But I can reveal that the response rate is 100%. So better than cilta-cel. And then there's Remnant, which is our sort of large, really large trial. We have so far enrolled 61 patients in Oslo and 313 in total in Norway. So this is a sort of national lift. And in this is the project leader is Anna Maria. She's sitting just behind Frida. So Anna Maria and Frida is running this trial together. She's running it even more than Frida. But it takes a lot of both of their time. So this is a really exciting trial with a very, very long endpoint. We are giving transplant and VRD induction consolidation, and then the patients that are MRD negative are then randomized to being treated with RRKD at MRD relapse or loss of MRD negativity, or with PD. And the thought is that starting earlier with RRKD will lead to a longer treatment because the tumor load is smaller than with RRKD, and that this will give a PFS and OS benefit. So this is really a study where we try to put in all patients in Norway, and those patients who do not become MRD negative, we try to put them into Karma 9, Majestic 7, these kind of studies, or Magnetism 7, sorry. And last, Hanne, this is Schjesvold. She's doing that like Jakob is doing Taltech, just being the national investigator for a Nordic trial. But she's also doing her own phase 1 trial. And this is very novel. So this is RAS mutation vaccination. So patients that are having RAS mutations in any situation in myeloma are getting vaccinated with this vaccination made by the company called Targovax. And we have done the initial cohort now of 7, and now just waiting for the safety time to run out, and then going to include 14 more. So too early to say what the results will be, but very, very novel. So in summary, Norway is now participating in many of the pivotal trials in myeloma in all phases of development. Several sites in Norway, in red here, are participating in industry trials. But what I didn't put in is that all sites, more or less in Norway, are participating in academic trials, especially remnant. So they are all over, from Tromsø up here to everywhere, more or less. Clinical studies are providing better treatment for Norwegian patients, an important experience for doctors and nurses, and valuable connections for investigators. And just as a sort of disclaimer in the end, this is a typical presentation where someone might think that I should have mentioned something else, and that's difficult. But I tried to mention many things at least. So with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Any questions to Fredrik? Sonja.
Fredrik, it's really impressive. So I've got one question. What is your secret? Because I think many countries will learn from you in order to get a better myeloma community and also to get access to all the studies. So really congratulations, all of you. Really beautiful. But give the secret and hand it over to everyone who wants to participate also, I think.
Well, I actually give some talks that take 45 minutes to try to answer that. But if I want to say one thing in particular, it's that you also do trials, and you know that the income you get from trials is quite a lot. So one thing is that it's a problem in many hospitals in Norway that the income from the trials are not allocated to the center. So one thing is that all our income, all the money we make are going directly to pay for my and the doctors and the nurses and all the others' salaries. That's one thing. The other thing is that for every trial we put patients into, we save millions. Not millions of euro, but millions of Norwegian kroner, because we get so much free drugs. And this, we had a student making what have we saved, and she showed that in 6 years, actually before we got as big as now, up to 21, we had saved money from free drugs that were actually reimbursed in Norway, which takes away a lot of them, in that situation, for 25 million euros in those 5-6 years. And if you, so the biggest secret was that me and my boss understood that as long as we have a lot to do, we can hire new people, and this is not taking money from our budget. It's actually making money from our budget. That is the biggest secret, I would say. And then you have the thing about getting trials. That's more complicated, but that's a actually your trial was extremely important for us. That was the first year. We had 19 patients. We had at the same time a carfilzomib second-line trial. In those studies, we showed that we can be big, and then I showed this to all the companies. And then we got then we get Optimism, late line, rescue center, and then we're suddenly one of the biggest there. And then you just have to build on the small things you have in the beginning. But the first one is the most important one. It was hampering a lot of Norwegian other diseases. Is that they don't get the money that they earn, and they are not allowed to expand, even though it doesn't cost the society and the money. Actually, the opposite.
Different numbers like yours. It was 11, I think, 19 maybe. Let's work together.
Yeah, but I agree. There was a big collaboration between Håvon, and that has sort of been on a break for some time, and we should pick up on that.
I think so.
But it's still more your trial than ours, at least.
Yeah. I just had a comment. It is really super impressive list of studies you are doing, and I think making money for the government, that's a good thing. But also, I think it is a great service for patients that they get access to all the new drugs. And literally, this is absolutely state-of-the-art everywhere in the world. So I think really congratulations on having these studies and being able to enroll all these patients. That's really wonderful.
And just, thank you. And I just want to comment one other thing, is that I think very many, researchers, they start with academic trials. And academic trials doesn't make any money, it just costs money. So we sort of did the opposite. We did it at the same time, but we used all the industry studies to create our infrastructures. And now, and in the beginning, we participated in Sonja's trials, in other Danish trials. But after some years, when we saw that now we have infrastructure, now we can start making our own trials, instead of the opposite way, which is much more heavy, I believe. So I think that also was good, that we didn't start by creating our own trials, because that takes so much effort. And then, but when we had more people, we can start developing that, having PhD students, as those kind of things. And also, just for secrets, if you list academic trials, what I think is very important is that as a PI, you need to, for a center at least, you need to get other people to do the work. Now, I understood quite early that if I were to do Remnant, for instance, which is a huge trial, I cannot, that would take all my time. So I had to hire someone that's really good and can do this. Anna Maria was the one and she was actually coming. Don't go into that. But to have, and then she needed to work 100% for years with this. So if as a PI you want to do those kind of things yourself, you cannot do the other things. You have to sort of be sort of cynical about what you use your time for if you want to create something that's for many people.
Agree. Good. More questions for Fredrik? If not, we take a 10-minute coffee break.